What is up, guys? It is your boy Age. We are live here on StreamYard, and it's Border Battle Week. And what better way to bring in the Border Battle Week than with our resident Packer fan here at 10K, our boy Kevin Ohm from Third and Forever. Kevin, how are you doing, man? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing as well as can be expected. Thank you for having me, AJ. And I usually hear the token Packer fan, not the resident Packer fan, but I'll take whatever I can get. It's good to be here.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I mean,
Yeah.
it's always good to have someone on the other side. It makes it too boring and too homer when it's all Vikings. So
Mm-hmm.
we're glad that you're here. We're glad that you're throwing in that flavor. And it's
Yeah,
going to be an interesting border battle, I think.
we got a little crossover going here, and I think we're both in a pretty weird spot. And we're not where we thought we were going to be at the start of the season, and we're not where each of us thought we were going to be kind of even like a week ago. Because I think a week ago I thought my team was going to hopefully win and your team was going to lose, and the
Yep.
opposite of that happened, where you guys went out and kind of shocked the world and beat the Niners on Monday night, whereas my team looked like shit against the Denver Broncos and continued a downward spiral. So we're all trying to adjust and figure out what the new normal is. And I have a feeling some weird shit's going to happen this week too.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past us. This is sometimes when the teams are kind of meh, it can tend to be a weird game. But before we get into it here, I want to talk about our friends at Underdog Fantasy. The easiest way to get some action on sports, it's Underdog Fantasy in their Pick'em game. Just pick higher or lower on your favorite or least favorite player stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Pick between 2 and 5 players to fill out your Pick'em entry, get every pick right, and take home some cold hard cash. Use the code 10K and get your first deposit doubled up to $100 by Underdog Fantasy. I've been saying it all year, guys. If you're not on Underdog Fantasy, you're sleeping, you're lacking. I've been making some bread this week. NBA just kicked off. I know that's not anything related to football, but NBA is so easy. It seems like, it's kind of easy to get reads right now. Football is, I don't know. I feel like football is so random with shit versus basketball is a little more trustworthy. So, and my brother's big into NBA stuff too. So we've been raking, but yeah.
Well, you get $100 free to work with. I mean,
exactly.
You're not going to find many promotions out there that literally give you $100 for free, which means even if you're not as smart as AJ, you're playing with house money at that point, You're
right. They gave it to you for free. You might as well, do something. You got to work through that money anyway to pull out whatever money. So
yeah, I got my 100. Don't ask me if I still have it, but I had it at one point, and it was a wild ride.
Yeah, I mean, prop betting is such a wild ride because even just like the littlest stuff like can send you into a frenzy one way or another. But interesting Thursday night football game tonight. Buccaneers and Bills. I think when they made this at the beginning of the season, they were like, okay, maybe Tom Brady, maybe the Bucs will be decent, and they kind of started out good. I don't know. I feel like they're fake good, but maybe the Bills are too.
I feel like the Bucs they're either a good bad team or a bad good team. I lean more towards they're a good bad team. I think they have a lot of holes, in terms of personnel. Their offensive line is super beat up. Their defense has issues, and they're competent enough where they come out and they can, get a win on the road like early in the season against your Vikings. If things line up for them. But they can also go and lose to a Saints. It's kind of...
That game was disgusting.
Yeah, exactly. So they can have real clunkers. I think Baker's better than we thought he would be, but that's a low bar. So it's kind of they're overachieving a little bit, I think, and the Bills are underachieving by quite a significant margin the last couple of weeks.
I feel like with the Bills, they have just such lofty expectations for them. Like it's basically Super Bowl or bust, and they haven't been to the AFC Championship game in almost 2 years. So it's like, I feel like Diggs is a problem.
It's getting
dire. it's getting really dire. It's getting to the point where like if they don't get there in the next year or two, it's going to be like blow it up because it's not working, and they might have to do that.
Yeah, and you'll keep, the Josh Allen and, maybe a couple pieces in that case. But yeah, we were talking about this on Third and Forever this week, and I mentioned that the Bills are kind of like a really, run down, not nice house, right? With like two Maseratis in the driveway that are Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. And besides that, I mean, I'm well documented in my hatred of Gabe Davis. James Cook is fine. The defense is riddled with injuries. It's like those two guys, if they're not clicking, nothing's clicking, and it's interesting to see a team that's so one dimensional in that respect.
Right. Yeah, I totally get that there. That's a good analogy. A
Yeah.
couple of things I'm liking tonight as far as props. Baker Mayfield, 33 and a half passing attempts. I feel like either way, they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. Baker has
Mm-hmm.
been smashing that line as of late. I think he's like last 5 has hit 3. So that's something I like there. And
Yep.
then, got to trust the wagon. Diggs fantasy, 18 and a half. I'm seeing an 18 on underdog straight. Dalton Kincaid as well, 10 fantasy. So a couple things there if you're sprinkling in some prop bets for tonight, Thursday Night Football. Going to be a weird game, but
Yeah,
but
it'll be Thursday Night Football, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Thursday Night Football has earned that reputation, so I guess it just makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But we're about a week, and it's in Lambeau. We're starting it out there, so we won't have the BS where the Vikings are having to go into the Lambeau when it's like 30-some degrees
you guys
outside.
won't have to hang out in the snow or the whipping cold through the bowl there and stuff like that. You guys will have a nice 70-degree game at the end of December against the Packers, but it'll be indoors and stuff like that. But I don't know. A lot of Packer fans will tell you that the Packers, they it's their thing and they love to play outside, and I wish it was colder. I don't know if that's true. I think that used to be true,
Right.
but I mean, all these guys, they don't live in Green Bay year round. They go somewhere else as soon as they can. It's cold and not super fun. So it's like, I don't know if it really matters a whole lot one way or the other, but either way, you guys don't have to deal with it this year.
That's true. That's true. I mean, have you been to Lambeau? I've assumed you've been to Lambeau before.
Yeah,
But
I've been to Lambeau a handful of times. The most recent one was the Packers Vikings at the end of, or kind of towards the end of last year, where it was, or was it 2 years ago? Yeah, it was 2 years ago because
with
it was
no Kirk?
Devontae Adams. It was his last touchdown in Lambeau. I remember I saw it. So it was 2 years ago, and it was when Kirk got COVID right before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
so that was a fun game to watch. It was colder than hell. I had like 15 layers on, and there were dudes in front of me shirtless. But yeah,
wow.
it was fun. It was a great atmosphere. Big blowout win, which was nice. Didn't know I was watching that last Devontae Adams Lambeau Field touchdown at the time, but yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he cooked us that game. That was a season of games where it was like, oh, it's over.
Yep.
Like the Cowboys game on Thanksgiving when they beat us with Cooper Rush.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween. I was like, oh, it's over. Like Mike Zimmer's done. But I was like, we can't know until we know. That game was like the nail in the coffin.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even I was done watching after the first quarter because I was like, yep, been there, done that. I'm not like that. Like I'll sit and watch the whole game, but not when we're getting blown out. That's the same thing last year too. When we went out to Lambeau and you guys just like trucked us, and Aaron Rodgers is looking like old Aaron Rodgers again, and I'm like, ugh.
Aaron Rodgers is looking like old Aaron Rodgers. Justin Jefferson is literally hitting an official on accident with his helmet.
Rage.
But I mean, yeah, there were some feelings wrapped up in that game last year, and I would love to see a repeat. However, this is not the Packers team that we saw last year. I think in a lot of ways the Vikings are more similar to themselves last year, in that I think last year they overachieved and this year they're underachieving in terms of record. But This Packers team is the youngest, I'm pretty sure, still in the NFL by a decent margin, and they look like it. I don't know how much Packers you've watched this season, AJ.
I try and pay attention when they're on Red Zone. I didn't watch too much of the Packers Raiders game.
They're not on red zone a whole lot. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
They're not,
yeah.
especially the first half. They do not seem to, as the kids say, score points, which I've heard is important in football.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah, they are dysfunctional is a good way to put it, and it's causing problems this year. When you look at the offensive line, a little bit banged up, missing both tackles, Bakhtiari out for the season, and then you look at every skill position, setting aside the two running backs who are not first or second year players. Everyone else, the tight ends, all the receivers are either in their first or second year in the NFL. And that's one of those things that sounds good in the preseason, like it sounds like, oh, we're getting young, we're getting cheap, we're, being smart. Then you see it on the field and it's guys making mistakes. It's guys fucking up their blocking assignments, two dudes running the same route and standing right next to each other on third down. It's been growing pains is what I'm going to say.
It certainly looks like that. I mean, it doesn't help when your best two skill players haven't been there. Like Aaron Jones gets hurt week 1 with that hamstring. Yep. Christian Watson, I mean, missed the first couple, 3 or 4 games, and then has been really lackluster since he got back in there.
Ever since he got back, he hasn't really done a whole lot since he got back, which is a big problem because he's supposed to be taking that second year step,
Right. I feel like his role has been run into double coverage and then have Jordan Love throw an interception because that's how the last couple games have ended.
Yeah, his kind of deep burner, and I think that you say he's back from the hamstring, which is true. I don't know if he's kind of effectively back in terms of his whole shtick is kind of being a burner, and I don't know if he has that top gear at the moment. Still, I think he's working his way back from that. I mean, hammies famously linger. And so you're right. A lot of it ends up being, desperation, 3rd and 20 type of stuff that, it's just an interception factory at that point because you're trying to force something that isn't there. So, yeah, it's not what I wanted to see this year. I'll tell you that, AJ.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you touched on that. You said coming into the season, we both kind of thought that, we would be at a better point, but it hasn't looked great, but we still have room to get there. What were your expectations coming in? Because I know Jordan Love, there's a lot of promise there, a lot of potential first-round pick, but he's had limited playing time so far up to this point. He sat and watched. What were your expectations? What did you really think about your team coming into this year?
Yeah, and I guess I had assumed that the team around Jordan Love would execute to a better extent because I think that we've kind of seen 2 Jordan Loves this season. We've seen, to a certain degree, kind of week 1, week 2 Jordan Love, where he looked pretty good. He had 6 touchdowns and 1 pick or something like that. I mean, he was 1-1. We didn't beat the Falcons, but he looked a lot better, showed a lot of promise. I was excited. Now you have the last 3 or 4 weeks here where we're looking at a Jordan Love that, low completion percentage, low yardage, the interceptions have gone up, the touchdowns have gone down. He looks a little skittish in the pocket sometimes. It seems like he kind of drifts into pressure and makes throws harder than they have to be. And there's a lot of stuff like that. And the worst part is that I can't tell if it's Jordan Love or if it's the situation, because we kind of talk about, people talk about Brock Purdy and how, everything around Brock Purdy is phenomenal. And they use that to discount Brock Purdy. In that same vein, I'm not saying Jordan Love is awesome. I'm still in the evaluation, but it's hard to tell because everyone around him is also fucking up. So he throws an interception and maybe the guy ran the wrong route. Maybe the guys, it didn't pick up a free blitzer or something like that and force this throw early. So we're just kind of in limbo, which would be fine with a normal rookie quarterback. But for the Packers, it's not because he's not a rookie quarterback. He needs to have his contract re-upped at the end of either this season or next. So the window is pretty limited in terms of an evaluation, and we're not really getting a good one. So that's a way too long answer to say that I'm not sure, but I'm concerned.
Right.
And I have a feeling, I don't know if I'm going to feel better after this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, he's looked like you said, good start, 6
Mm-hmm.
touchdowns. Those wide receivers, they're working with a lot of youth. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they don't really have a veteran. They've all left because they went and joined Aaron Rodgers out in New York, but they're working with a
Yeah.
lot of young guys. So, I mean, all the wide receivers, Reed, Dobbs,
Yep.
Watson, they're all super young. Musgrave is a rookie tight end. Like, it's going to
And
be
there's
tough
flashes
sailing.
on, yeah, there's flashes with all those
Yeah.
guys, but you see it when you look at the tape after the fact and you say, you know, this guy Jaden Reed, he caught the ball, yes, but he didn't run a very good route. Or Musgrave ends up wide open, which has happened a couple times this season, and just kind of panics in the open field, and maybe he catches it, but he loses his feet. Stuff like that. False starts, just silly mistakes and things like that make it hard for this offense to really execute. And I have a feeling getting into the matchup here this weekend, the Vikings blitz. I'm not exaggerating, like 90% of plays. You guys are maniacs.
It's fun to watch.
Flores
It's
is
so fun
an
to watch.
absolute madman. And I have a feeling that the Packers' collective youth, whether that's checks from Jordan Love or missed assignments from the offensive line or what have you, I don't think that's going to translate well to the Packers in this game. I'm bracing for the worst. So put it that way.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that aspect of it. I mean, the Vikings are blitzing a ton. It is a complete 180 from what we saw last year in the Ed Donatel shell, sit down and not do anything, play with your hands tied behind your back kind
Yep.
of defense. So it's
Don't
super
give up the big
refreshing.
play. Just give up,
Don't give up the big play.
15 medium
Just
plays. Yeah.
just make Daniel Jones look like Michael Vick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, Flores, I mean, this defense, and I was concerned. My big thing this year with them has been the secondary. Like, when the blitz comes and you're playing these good quarterbacks, can these corners do enough when they're on an island with a star wide receiver? Like, I'm very scared for us to face Jamar Chase and Devontae Adams down the line. But if this defense keeps getting better and doing what they need to do, it's going to look good. I think they had a good game against Brock Purdy. I feel like the interceptions were more on Brock Purdy just being like haywire than
Did you
us
see
making a play. But
did you see the kind of news update that Purdy on the plane ride back got put in the concussion protocol? He was displaying concussion symptoms.
I did see that.
So somebody kind of found, they're trying to figure out where it happened. Not to take away from I'm not trying to shit on the Vikings. I promise.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not trying. I'm just kind of.
Don't come on my show and be that guy.
It's interesting that they think he got it on one of those kind of tush push QB sneak type of things.
Yeah, I saw that clip.
Before that, he was like 16 to 20 for a touchdown and a bunch of yards, and after that, he was like 30% passing and 2 interceptions.
Yeah, 2 of 6. So, yeah,
I mean, that's neither here nor there necessarily, but I just thought that was interesting. But regardless, I mean, the Vikings looked more than competent. If you can shut down the Niners, I think you can shut down the Packers this year. If you're just going 1-to-1 week to week, I don't know. I don't see a ton of hope on my side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I hadn't really thought honestly about the matchup this weekend. Like, it's because I always feel like these matchups are kind of weird. Like, you come in and things are kind of sleepy and you don't really know if it's going to go either way. I feel like the last time we really kind of put it to you guys is when Dalvin Cook had 4 touchdowns in the COVID year. And even then you guys had a chance to win that game. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Well,
it's
and that's one of those, and the only hope I think that I have here, the only kind of narrative that I can craft that gives me a sunny picture for the Packers is that the Vikings are going to come in complacent. Because why wouldn't they?
Right.
Because the Packers, as we covered, have looked like shit the last month. And they just beat the 49ers. And they're coming in on a short week thinking they're hot shit. And still no JJ, which, we could talk about. Addison looked good on Monday, but it's definitely not. It's definitely not better to not have JJ. And that's kind of the only thing I can think of is that the Vikings kind of come in unfocused and maybe the Packers could punch them in the mouth, but we haven't been good at punching teams in the mouth in general this year. So that's all.
That was what I was looking. That's what I was looking for last week. I was like, you know
Mm-hmm.
what? The Packers, they got Denver. Like, they're going to come in. They're going to hang 30 on them. They're going to beat their ass. And
Yep.
instead, it was like stumble walking. But like the Broncos were like, oh, do we want to
Mm-hmm.
win? I don't know.
Well, and that's the
So,
worst part of the Packers is that, we've talked about the offensive issues, but the defense and our defensive coordinator Ed Donatel not Ed. Geez, that was a Freudian slip right there. Our defensive coordinator Joe Barry, who is very similar to Ed Donatel, he plays that same style of offense, the bend don't break, which is code for just let them complete 7-yard passes all the way down the field, defense until they score. So the Packers kind of, they get into the red zone and then maybe they buckle down and they only let up a field goal, but that means there's no urgency on offense either. So it's kind of the worst of both worlds.
right.
Yeah.
I know you guys are pretty banged up on that side. Because I'm kind of like, defensively, it
Yeah.
hasn't been there, but I don't want to have this be the week of all weeks where I'm like, oh, we're going to go in there and hang 40 on them. Because then
Yeah.
Jair could show up and be like, oh, I'm ready to go and completely lock down Addison after he looked like an all pro player last week. I don't really know what to make of that.
Yeah, well,
Like,
Jair has been banged up for a number of weeks now. He missed a week and then he was back, and then after the bye week, and then he missed the Broncos game, so he got worse over the bye. I'm not sure, and he's still limited in practice, so that's up in the air. I think we're down either one or two starting safeties. Darnell Savage got put on IR like yesterday, something like that. And then another cornerbacks, Eric Stokes is either out or on IR, and there's banged up secondary is what I would say. And given the way that I think Kirk remembered what Kirktober is this week, that it gives me some concern because Kirk has been playing really well this year. I'm well documented in my lukewarmness over Kirk in general, but I can't deny that he was slinging it last night, throwing touchdowns that should have been interceptions, but that's neither here nor there.
yeah, that was a tough ball. I went back and looked at the replay. I was like, there's no, like, that needs to be out in front on the seam. And
Yeah.
Addison runs with that. Like, I don't know. So sometimes he makes weird throws like that. And then other times it's like, oh my God, Kirk, where did you just come out with that crazy ass dot out of nowhere? So I don't know. I feel like the only thing for me is the run game has really, really struggled to get going. Like, Carolina's the only game where you could go back and be like, okay, it looked good. And then the next week, it just looks terrible. I think last week was a good sign because Madison did decent and Cam Akers really popped. And everyone's like, well, is Cam Akers going to take this over? I don't really want one of them to be the primary beneficiary of all the targets and carries. I just want someone to be good and have it be enough of a threat because Kirk is insane when that play action is working. So maybe this is the week the run game gets going, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it could be, and I did notice that too on Monday that the kind of split breakdown between Madison and Akers seemed a lot more even than it's been so far, and Kevin O'Connell too, I think, is one of those newer coaches, especially the McVay type guys, do like to generally have some of that 1A 1B type of running back philosophy, and I think that people were surprised by the Cam Akers trade, and I kind of was too, especially because you guys got him for like a fart in the wind 3 years from now. Yeah, like it was ridiculous, but it's like, why even trade him at this? Just cut him.
Because Sean McVay hates Cam Akers.
Yeah, it's like it's more paperwork to trade him. Just cut him. But yeah, I think that it almost seems like Madison maybe needed a little bit of a jolt too, because there's no one behind him. It seems like the organization is not confident in Wangwu and Ty Chandler. I mean, I don't know who else is even back there for you guys, but yeah, it seemed like now there's some legitimate competition for touches in the offense, which is probably not a bad thing.
Well, Wangwu hasn't even played this year. His game is more kick return, and I don't think he's even played at all. He's been dealing with an injury of some sort. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm such a bad fan, but Ty Chandler, I feel like he's good, and he had a couple pass plays. He had that
he had
it was
hype
the
in the
pass across the
offseason.
field that got called back on a KJ Osborne PI, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Tons
had
of
some
hype,
hype in the
but they just
offseason, but it
they
just didn't
haven't really
seem like the
given him the
organization liked
time.
him. Yeah. Yeah, and that's that's something that I can relate to. We talked about Aaron Jones, who I think will play in this game, but he's still kind of wishy-washy in practices and stuff like that. And behind him, you have AJ Dillon,
How? It's been like 2 months.
hamstrings,
Like,
dude. And
what's
then,
what?
well, and the worst part about hamstrings is that guys hurt their hamstring, and they should sit out for like a month, and they don't want to do that. So they come back too early, and then they, kind of re-aggravate it, and we get this whole cycle where if they would have just sat out, they would have gotten back 100% a lot faster. But that's not
Right.
what football players want to do. They want to go out there, they want to compete, and he is hands down our best player on offense at the moment. It's not even really that close. So when he's out there, they're an entirely different football team.
Yeah, I think that's really the only thing I'm worried about. Like, if he goes out and plays like everyone knows that he can, it's going to be a tight game because Aaron Jones has played pretty well historically against the Vikings. So
Yep.
I
Well,
wouldn't
and
put that
it's
past him
going
at
to be
all
a
to kind
tight
of carry you
game.
guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight game regardless, AJ, because this is the Minnesota Vikings we're talking about. You guys are physically incapable
Yep.
of winning or losing by more than a score, it seems like.
I just want it to be different for like 2 weeks. Like,
no.
why is it like this for 2 years straight? What's going on?
So are you
I can't take it
fully
anymore.
back
It's like,
in on the Vikings this season? I know I think it seemed like the Vikings fan base hit a low point after the
oh,
loss to
man.
who was it? It was right after it was a loss to the Chiefs, right? And then JJ went on IR, and it seemed like season was pretty much shit out of luck at that point. But now there's been a little bit of a pushback with the Niners win. So where are you at with the Vikings long term?
Yeah, it got really doomsday
Got
after
dark.
that Chiefs game. Just because, I mean, I don't know. I didn't expect us to beat them anyway, but it was just like, okay, we lose another close game that we maybe should have, and dumb mistakes that keep happening. And then JJ goes
Yep.
out, and it's like, oh my God. I feel like Vikings Twitter and just all of any fan that's somewhat negative and somewhat doomsday just makes everything 1,000 times worse when anything bad happens. So I was
Yeah.
like, man, like I was like, oh my God, like how am I going to hop on here and like do this for a whole season, bro? I was like, what's going on? Now we beat the 49ers. We're back.
Yep.
Wheels up. Like I feel good just because like if we get through this stretch without JJ, you win this game, Falcons next week, and then he comes back against the Saints. I feel really good because I mean it's a soft schedule until you get to past the bye, which then it really turns up. But if we can put together our best football from now until the bye going in, I think it's going to be and like I don't know. Like I feel like Sunday also proved that the Lions are not as good as everyone thinks they are. I haven't talked shit about them at all this year because I respect their game, but maybe they're just not who everyone thought they were. Like Kyle Brandt was
Yeah.
like, the Lions are the best team in the NFL. I'm like, whoa. So I think there's a chance that the Vikings can make this interesting for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I mean, I think the Lions got a little out over their skis in terms of, people say act like you've been there before with the Lions, and they quite literally have not ever been there before. At least in the last like 30
Never.
years. Yeah, like since the NFC North became a thing, they haven't really been there. So I think that what we saw this last week was the culmination of, a lot of reading your own headlines and your clippings and stuff like that from the Lions. And I think they are a good football team, but they went out there thinking they were, going to roll. And that's never a good mindset to have. But yeah, I guess so. It sounds like you're still, believing the Vikings can make the playoffs. And after that, who knows what happens. You don't want to trade Kirk, which I know was a big circulating point, like even as soon as a week ago. Okay.
Marlo asked me after the Chiefs game or the Chargers game, and I'm so mad that I ever like entertained that with my logical, like neutral mind.
Mhm.
because it's just dumb. Like, this is not the NBA where like someone could go to another team and be like playing in a week and like, yeah, we're good, we're humming, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Like we'll figure it out. Like that's not how football works, especially as a quarterback, especially with Kirk's autism brain. That wouldn't be a thing that would ever
Yeah.
work. So,
Yeah, and that's something that,
what
like,
are you picking?
Oh, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead, finish. I just
I was
wanted,
gonna
yeah.
say, I always thought that was kind of funny too, because like you said, you go to a different system, it's hard to learn, and at least from like a Kirk being Kirk standpoint, like he is not one of these improv Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes run around and make something happen kind of guys. He is a structure. He is a, first read, second read, third read kind of guy. And when you go to a different system, maybe it's similar, but I think there's going to be growing pains for a guy like that. I think you could put Mahomes on any team in the NFL and he would be Patrick Mahomes still. But if you traded Kirk to the Jets today, it would take a month for him to get comfortable in that system.
Yeah, a month minimum. Like it's just he thrives on that comfortability, I feel like. And he hasn't had that
Mm-hmm.
here in Minnesota until this year. Like
Yeah.
it's so crazy that this is his first time in Minnesota having the same offense 2 years in a row. So,
Yeah, that is
um
nuts.
we're going out to Lambeau Field. We're going out to Lambeau Field this week, me and the boys, me and the head boys. Do you have any tips, advice for going to Lambeau Field? Any like places that I should go to, or yeah, anything like that?
Yeah, I would say that, when you go out to Lambeau Field, on a game day and you guys are picking probably a good time, it just worked out, I guess, because the Vikings, but it's a good time of the year to go do it. It's not going to be hot. It's not going to be brutally cold either. You're probably going to get some nice sweatshirt weather. And what I would say is, just kind of like it sounds cliche, but have fun and go with the tailgate stuff. There's so much stuff going on outside Lambeau Field. There's so many places and bars and things like that, because what you have at Lambeau that you don't get in a quote unquote real city like Minneapolis is there's this super kind of interesting phenomenon where the whole town is kind of geared around Lambeau Field. You're going to notice it when you drive in, that it's like you can see the roads that lead to Lambeau. They look nicer than the roads that don't lead to Lambeau. It's like down to the bricks in the bridges. That's like,
That's
this is
crazy.
what this town is for. So there's hotels, there's bars and restaurants and stuff like that all around Lambeau. I say you guys should check out the fence across the field from Lambeau where some of the townhouses are that you can rent. That's always got a nice mural on it that you guys might not appreciate, but it's still something worth seeing. But no, I think you guys should get drunk. I think you guys should make a lot of content. I wish I could be there because it sounds like fun, but we'll be live streaming it up in the studio, keeping it warm.
Yeah, keep the studio warm for us. We got a hotel like
Mm-hmm.
15-minute walk away from Lambeau, and it was
Wow.
so much money.
Well, those
But
things, they sell
whatever.
out. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's something to be said too about there's some dirty little secret about the NFL schedule. Before the schedule comes out, usually, kind of right before it comes out, all the home game weeks at those hotels book up. So somebody's telling somebody about the schedule before it comes out. It happens every year. But that's what I'm
Uh-oh.
talking about, where it's like, we talk about like sending a game to London and some teams might lose a home game. That's like the city of Green Bay losing like 10% of its GDP that year. Like, it's a big deal. The whole
Right.
town circulates around this football team. So I don't know. I think you guys it's going to be a different vibe, I think, than the Vikings games. I've been to a couple, games out where we hang out outside of US Bank, and it's fun and it's good, but I think it's a little bit different in Lambeau. So I'm curious what you guys are going to think of it when you get down there.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about, I mean, downtown Minneapolis, it's bustling, US
Mm-hmm.
Bank Stadium, all that energy, all that noise, all the hype at the it's going to be a different vibe for sure. And I've been to a
Yeah.
couple road stadiums, but this one is a little bit different just because of everything around it. So,
Yeah, there's millions of people in Minneapolis that don't give a fuck about the Vikings. there are maybe 20 people in the city of Green Bay that don't care about the Packers, and I don't know what they're doing there. It's just different, and you'll see that, when you get there. Not to sound like a snooty Packer fan, it's just different, but it is different. Adam's popping up in the chat. He's
this was
watching.
like 20 minutes ago. I don't even know if he's here. I'm so bad at watching the comments sometimes.
Yeah, he's talking about what drunk player we're going to see from Jordan Love this week, because we have a joke on Third and Forever that we get one just drunk play from Jordan Love once a week. Like if you saw the Falcons game, or he did a QB sneak without hiking the ball, so he just kind of fell over his center and nobody else moved.
I saw that.
Yeah, that was not good for the GIFs. He can't be having GIF-worthy plays like that. And I think then the next week we ran like a throw it out to the side and then throw it back to the quarterback type of thing. So he like a double pass, but the running back threw it back to him terribly. So he had to like try and pick it up off the ground and like broke both of his ankles and fell down. He gets one every week, and it's you just got to wait for it.
I think we're going to see a drunk play this week. Some way or another. I don't know how, because that stuff can't be predictable, but
maybe we'll see a drunk touchdown. Maybe it'll be good.
My boy Dave, think we trade for an RB before the trade deadline. I went out and banged my fist on the table. I was like, go get Jonathan Taylor. And then everyone was like, no, that's stupid. And I was like, okay, maybe you're right, but I'm just trying to be different. Now I'm like, I don't know, Ramondre Stevenson, that would be super sexy. Like, what?
You guys know why you won't do that, though? Because you already did that. And even though Cam Akers is not like a sexy trade, the organization is going to say, well, look, we did that. We got the help that we think we needed. We're not going to pay through the nose for a Derrick Henry when, we have these guys that we like. So I would be shocked.
A Derrick Henry rental with Justin Jefferson. I mean, then it's turning into the NBA where it's like, all right, yeah, we're going to get these guys at the deadline and we're really going to make a push, and then we'll see what happens. I don't know. I feel like that style of acquiring people I feel like that just doesn't work for football. So yeah,
I wouldn't expect it. I think it can work, but yeah, I wouldn't. I'd be absolutely shocked.
I think we used up our lucky chips on the trade magic when we got Hawkinson last year. So I think that was our big move, because now it's just, get the team going and get right. So we'll kind of wrap it up here. What do you have for score prediction?
Score prediction. And this is where I'm going to come off as a shitty fan, but we've been talking about it the whole time. I'm trying to be more realistic about my boys this year. I started off the season on a somewhat unrealistic, expectations. This is new territory for me. I'm a Packer fan. I'm not used to this. All right. It's been pretty good for a pretty long time for me. So with that said, my score prediction, I'm going to go 17-27 Vikings. So Vikings win by 10 points. I think it's only like a 1 point favorite that you guys are going into Lambeau right now, which I think is kind of crazy. I would expect them to cover that pretty easily. Cause I don't know, until I see it from these Packers, but for all the reasons that we talked about, I can't allow myself to get my hopes up. Adam's going to tell you that I'm reverse jinxing it, but I promise you, this is my honest opinion. How about you? What do you think?
I thank you for bringing your honest opinion to the show. I think the Packers opened up as a 1 point favorite,
and then
I was kind of angry. I was like, what?
Yeah, well, I think they opened as a 1 point favorite before the Niners game, and everyone went, "Oh, wait a minute."
I think you're right there. I think you're right.
Yeah. What about you?
Because now the Vikings. I'm pretty similar on your train. I'm going to say 27-20 Vikings, just because I was like, every week I'm like, you know what? We're going to break the one score narrative. We're going to break the one score narrative. And it just doesn't happen. So I'm going to take a page from your book, do the reverse jinx, say we'll win by a score, and then maybe it'll be different. Hopefully it will. But I don't want to sound cocky, but I don't, like I said, I don't really know if Aaron Jones comes back and plays like how he should, I think that's the only way you guys win. Otherwise, but I don't know. So,
I mean, if we look at the last 7 days,
should be fun.
It should not be a controversial statement to say that the Vikings, are expected to win this game. Yeah, that just makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. It is going to be a great weekend this week. Vikings at Packers. So, Kevin, thank you for joining me, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you later, guys. Thanks for listening.